public speaking. You didn't take public speaking in high school. That was done by our old maid senior English teacher. And she had a rule of thumb that said the three golden rules for public speaking was to be heard, speak up, to be seen, stand up, and to be appreciated, shut up. So I will attempt to meet all three obligations this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. By the way, what's the timeline? Since I'm running late this morning, what time do you need me to finish? 9:45. 9:45, way possible. Way possible. And I'm thrilled to be speaking to this group this morning because it's my background. I was 31 years in manufacturing, and I came here in 1988 with an organization called Pirelli over in Lexington. I was plant manager at that time, and the unit that I was managing got bought by Cisco Systems in the year 2000, so I was a Cisco Systems employee for 18 months before the wheels fell off telecom, and I found myself in Raleigh, North Carolina, with home with a mortgage in Lexington, South Carolina, and 2 kids in college and no income. So, and I got one of my fast track races here this morning, right? But I look at that and I say to myself, what's happened in the last 14 years? In the last 14 years, I have had the honor to be an employee of Midlands Technical College. I've also had that distinct privilege of doing something that I truly love, okay? Which is, I found out I'm not credentialed to be an instructor at Midlands Technical College, but I'm a hell of a teacher. And I think everybody in this room probably can look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, I'm a hell of a teacher too, okay? And I'm going to give you this, and this is just a warm-up for my presentation. And this is called Ikigai. And I ran across this at a conference last year. And this is your reason for being. How do they say that in French?
Raison d'être.
Raison d'être. Who said that? Right there. Okay, great. My French teacher in high school would be proud of me. Right? I actually took French 2 years in high school, 2 years at Chapel Hill. I'm a graduate of the University of North Carolina. I actually got to use French because in my job with Pirelli, I spent 5 years traveling in and out of France and Italy. So it was great. I couldn't speak it really well, but I could understand. I could understand what they were doing. Ikigai. First of all, your reason for being. 4 parameters. Get through this very quick. First of all, what do you love? What do you love to do? As I said earlier, I have found that I love to be employed at Midlands Technical College and have had the opportunity to do the things that I've done and the things that I'm doing now. How many of you raise your hand and say, I love what I do? I love what I do. All right. Now, when you have the opportunity to match that with what the world needs, it starts becoming magical. Okay? It starts becoming magical. The next part of the conversation is, what can you be paid for? It's nice if you can earn an income out of these two. And lastly, what are you good at? Okay? Look yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, what am I good at? It might not be what you're doing. It might not be what you're doing. How far off base are you? And what do you need to do to get there? Because as you pair these things up, combination of what you love and what the world needs becomes your mission. That's my mission in life. Whereas what the world needs and what you can be paid for is your vocation. Okay? That makes it great. And by the way, I'd be happy to share these with your membership. You know, so just tell me who to send them to, and I will both this presentation and the major presentation. My main presentation. What you're good at and what you can be paid for is your profession. Your profession. And lastly, what you love and what you're good at, when that crosses over, there is your passion. There is your passion. You can have this conversation with anybody you know. You can have this conversation with fellow employees, you can have this conversation with your spouse, you can have this conversation with your children, your grandchildren. But when you get to the point where you have answers to everything here, you've achieved your reason for being. You now understand your reason for being. Very, very, very simple little process, but it works. And you know what? I've done it, I'm there, and I feel great about it. It's just absolutely, absolutely wonderful. When you understand why are you doing what you're doing. And that's a major piece, I think, of what you guys as a group do, because you're ushering your fellow employees into a new understanding of themselves, a new frame of reference. I'm going to bring back up frame of reference as I get into the presentation here in just a little bit. But your frame of reference, you are the orchestra leaders in your jobs, in the training and talent development field. You're ushering folks into a new understanding of their reason for being. And every time you can elevate the status of someone by making them better at what they do, or making them good at a new skill, or a new category of activities, you're beating the drum that the raison d'etre responds to. Okay, that's just the warm-up for what we're doing. Questions, comments? Just spark any kind of imagination on your part. What do you think?
So the middle part, that icky guy, sounds like a dude you don't want to.
It can be icky guy, or it can be aki guy.
Okay. So in short, that if we were to, if that was all one color there, that would be our purpose then.
Yes. At the intersection of these four is where you achieve your reason for being. And you understand the four facets of your reason for being. Now you can have something that you love to do, but you can't make any money at it. What's that sound like?
Hobby.
Anything else? But I was thinking about, they don't call folks starving artists for nothing. All right? I was thinking, many folks in the artistic arena love what they do. They're dedicated to it, but they haven't figured out yet how to make any money at it. Okay? Or you're passionate about something. And when I think about passionate people, I look at any of the number of not-for-profits that operate out of the Columbia area because we're the capital. And typically their leader, their person, executive director of that not-for-profit, is one of the most passionate people you've ever run into. But he or she can't manage their way out of a paper bag. And that's where they need you, okay? Because, they don't understand finances, but their entire opportunity to exercise their passion spins about whether the organization can get paid for what they're doing. So these are the things you think about. I can spend an hour on this, but I just want to throw this out there as a warm-up to get your brains in gear. Because my presentation that I'm getting into right now is one that I'm going to say to you, will challenge this. Any of you familiar with the 70-20-10 learning model? Okay, 70% of learning is experiential based, 20% is social learning, comes from talking and meeting and understanding with each other, and 10% comes from formal learning, structured in the classroom where you're actually watching a video, you're working from a textbook or some type of manual. My question to you is, as talent development professionals in the world, does this work? Does it still work? I mean, this is from the Center for Creative Leadership, and they developed this in the 80s. That's 30 years ago. A few things have changed in the last 30 years. Does it still work? Is it still a good baseline? Because as you go forward with the alphabet soup we're going to talk about, you have to reflect each one of those members of that alphabet over this model, and some may work and some may not work. So we take a look at that. So I'll come back to that, and I mentioned that in the presentation. So let me get back here right quick. Get to the presentation. Okay, alphabet soup for the soul. I came up with the young lady that contacted me. She and I came up with this title for the presentation in like 15 seconds of talking. So I am not smart enough to have an original idea, right? So I steal shamelessly from most things that I see. I will try to wrap anything that I can learn as a teaching tool or a learning tool or as some other object to make sure that it happens, to make sure that it works. So I label myself as a keen observer and a prodigious prognosticator, which opens me up to any kind of abuse and question and anything else that you would like to throw at me this morning. So the intention here with the next few minutes is to turn this on, smile, and have some fun as we go through. We talk about these ideas, and this is a multi-way conversation. This is not a sermon. This is not a sage on the stage. I'm going to say things, and then I'm going to call on you, and I'm going to embarrass you, when you answer. Okay? Get ready. It is, like I said earlier, it is outstanding. It's very pleasing to be here this morning with you as talent development professionals. Because one of the things I've learned in the last 5 years is our future depends upon the efficacy of your profession and the ability of your trainees to actually be trained and come through it. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's set I call it an operational stage. I've got a version of this that I do for manufacturers. I've got a version of this I do for not-for-profits. I've got a version of this I do for K-12 instruction, classroom professionals. So it's relatively flexible. All right. How many of you are in a manufacturing industry? Qualify yourselves, okay? How many of you in the service industry? All right, what do the rest of you do? What's left after service and manufacturing? Professional government, all right, and government, we tend to maybe be a little government-centric here in the local area, right? One of the things you notice, and I talk about this with Jeremy on many occasions, is there's a little bit of competition in economic development, just a little bit between Lexington and Richland County. You go to Lexington County and you look at the 9 members of the county council, 7 of them are successful small business owners. You go to Richland County, of the 11 council members there, 8 or 9 of them are government employees in the daytime. You think that has an impact on the way they think about how they discharge their duties as an elected official? Right? I think so. I think so. And Richland County's recognized this, actually. They have recognized this non-competitive angle, and they're really trying to do something about it. And we've been engaged with, in fact, I've been engaged last 6 weeks in interviewing folks for a position there that's essentially a small business ombudsman for Richland County, just like they have the city of Columbia. So let's set this operational stage. First of all, we're going to talk about demographics. You can't have a conversation today about workforce development if you're not talking about demographics. We got one of the largest organizational demographic changes going on in the history of the United States right now. What is that?
Baby boomers retired.
Yeah, the baby boomers are working like hell to get retired. Now this is a complete change in here. If the boomers had retired, if the recession hadn't happened, we would have already been in the middle of this. But most of us boomers, we saw our 401k become a 200.5, and we said, well, we can work a little longer, we'll delay a little longer. But now their 401ks are restored. The stock market is at record level right now. They are liquid again and can act on that. And many of them are walking into the HR offices where they work and saying, oh, by the way, June 30th is my last day. 2-week notice. Right? Now we'll talk about that. We'll come back and talk about that in just a minute. But the demographics across the stage, this is the alphabet soup. Secondly, talent management. I used to call this training and development, then I called it learning and development. Now I call it, in respect to you guys, talent management and the costs associated with that. And we're going to make some comments and get some inputs back from you guys relative to these costs as we go through. How do you fund what you do? And what's the return on investment of that? And another way to look at it, well, what's the cost of you not doing it in your organizations? And what's the return on that lack of investment? as you move forward. This has the opportunity to shake the largest corporations in America, to really shake at their core, to rattle the basement of what they're doing. Competition. Competition for employees, competition for talent, competition between your businesses and other businesses. What's one of the most competitive businesses you see right now on a daily basis, on a routine basis? Every morning when you get ready to go to work and every evening when you sit down to eat supper, who's on TV advertising?
JT.
Well, other than dial all that. Okay? Insurance and automobiles. Okay? It's one of the most competitive businesses in the world. They're after your transportation dollar. And they're not giving up. I mean, you know, JD, you know, it's amazing some of the commercials he does. But that's the creative aspect of it. Does that cause people to show up and buy a Kia?
I'm
You
sure.
bet, you bet it does, right? He's one of the largest Kia dealers in the world, okay, because of how he's gone about doing it. But he's handling competition in a very creative way. The 21st century version of competition is collaboration. You get to the point that it's useless for me to continue to spend all this money trying to beat the competition. If I can't beat them, let's join them, okay? So the creative aspect of what we're doing right now is to understand opportunities for collaboration. Then you got credentials. I am sitting here right now, I am not preaching against a 4-year degree, but I work for an institution that does 2-year degrees, does associate degrees, diplomas, certificates, and credentials, okay? My point to you is, in the labor market we're looking at right now, across the board, credentials will trump degrees in probably the next 8 to 10 years. Everybody that's coming out of high school that I can talk to is coming back in to education after being out of education for a while. I say, don't spend 10 cents on something that doesn't lead to a credential. And it needs to be a national credential, which makes you highly mobile when you can take that credential and go anywhere. And as employers, that's a good thing on one side and a terrible thing on the other, because they may leave as fast as they can get your credential from what you do. Next, cost of operation. In any business, can I afford to train or not to train, and what does it do to my bottom line? And if you're a publicly held company, to the stockholders, how do I address that every quarter? What are the stockholders looking for each quarter? They're looking for a dividend check. They're looking for an improvement. Well, if I've got 30% of my workforce saying they're going to retire in the next 24 months, I'm going to be having to incur some costs that go above and beyond the normal cost matter. I have to understand that, and you've got to get very, very, very engaged as a training professional and a talent development professional strategically in your company. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. Scalability. I learned a lot working for a multi-billion-dollar company called Cisco Systems Telecommunications Giant. And one of the things that I remember, I was in a meeting in San Jose with their chairman, and he said, I want you to think about how do you scale your business. And we talked about this in Fast Track. And what's the number I use in Fast Track when I talk about scalability? You remember?
No, I don't remember.
It's not growing my business 20% or 30% or whatever. He challenged us to think about what's your business going to operate like, what's going to look like if you're doing 4 times the volume that you're doing right now. It gets you out of your comfort zone. You've got to think about things totally different than you do right now. 20, 30%, that'd be great. But in 5 years, we're going to be doing 4 times the volume. Somebody's going to walk in your door and say, we need the talent to 4x, 2x this volume operation if we're going to be successful. And what are you going to say? You need to be prepared. The scalability question today, and this has evolved over the last 30 years, the scalability question today has nothing to do with equipment. but it has everything to do with the talent that is operating these pieces of equipment or the processes necessary for your business to function. And lastly, you also got to be able to sustain it. So sustainability. Sustainability, and another definition, is retention, talent retention. Right? I can't build a new organization if I'm losing 30% of my workforce every year in just churn, because this generation goes for $1. Okay? Yes, sir.
It's interesting that you put all of these up, because right now, one of the things that I'm looking at within my job is dealing with education. And one of our biggest things is as we continue to grow, I can't physically afford the staff to put people on the road to do in-person classes. And so I have to now be looking at demographics and looking at things online and that type of thing in order to provide scalability without, going broke by having to put people on the road or whatever. And so all of those pieces I'm having to account for in that.
And we've had conversations with Jeremy on this same thing. One of the little hidden gems at Midlands Technical College here, blatant, all right, I'm going to do some blatant advertising for business, right?
We need to sign
From
some
which I
right
draw
now.
my paycheck, right? Is we have a little known department, which is
Very
Barber.
Very
Yeah,
solution.
no, Barber's Group,
Oh, never mind.
which is media development,
Yes.
right? We got a studio, we've got glass, instructor, glass facilities, which is state of the art. But the solution for us, and Mr. Young, is you use a competent type of video, and you mobilize that, and you get your subject matter expert, and you get them through a video conference, and then you lay that out, and you use management learning systems, or learning management systems to record who's in it, who's out of it, and you structure it where the individual who is participating becomes accountable for that participation. And there's potential that could turn into a revenue source for us. Right now, we use it almost totally internally. Right, so we'll do that.
Well, and it's also you're not geographically bound.
No. Yeah.
Because pretty much somebody in Europe could utilize it.
Yeah. It's happening as we speak.
Yep.
As we speak, it's happening. With Jeremy, we just closed a deal where folks are dialing into. We use Desire to Learn as our learning management system. We got folks dialing in from all over the world, doing just that. And it has become the solution for that employer as to what they want to do. Okay, now we'll come back. Any questions at any point in time? Like I said, this is a two-way conversation. But let's look at some things that have come up in the 2010 census, and that were noted also again in 2015 when they did the update to the census. First of all, we're getting greater. Well, some of us are. Okay? Or flesh tone. Flesh tone. But
Some of both.
there's all kinds of numbers. The most recent number I heard is 8,000 people a day are turning 65 right now. Okay, so that means 5 years from now, 8,000 people a day are turning 70, and that's just going to go on forever.
Tom,
Looks like.
Give
Yes,
the
ma'am.
number, give the number for South Carolina. I heard 46% of the state would be over 65 in the next 10 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's that age group. Problem with that is the other age groups leaving.
That's why.
The group there, the millennials, they're not finding enough to hang around here for. So so there's a multifaceted problem here.
That's scary.
Okay. Secondly, we still benefit from a south shifting population, except in summertime. It's 100 degrees outside in the middle of June. But we're talking. I was in a conversation with Chamber of Commerce meeting in Lexington in April, and the superintendent there was talking about their next bond referendum, And he's talking about having to do a $500 million bond referendum in Lexington School District 1 to keep up with the anticipated growth of the district. They still have 700 plus students arriving in the district every year. 600 is an elementary school. 3 elementary schools, you have to have another middle school. 2 middle schools, you got to have another high school. So, you know, this is going. Richland, Lexington 5 has got the same thing, because the projected growth for Lexington County is that it'll be 425,000 people by 2030. It's 280,000 people now. And that growth is going to go west on I-20, on any primary road that intersects I-20, and north on I-26, excuse me, west on I-26 going towards Greenville on any exit out there. So you can see, and the Lexington County Council is now seriously considering adding water and sewer beyond exit 51, which is Long Pond Road. That's where they're taking the widening of 20 out to Long Pond Road. But there are 3 more intersections before you get to the county line on the other side that have no water and sewer. And if they had water and sewer, people would be building there right now. So those are the things that the south shifting population. In other areas of the country, they are shuttering schools because we don't need any. The largest graduation class, high school graduation class in the history of the United States was in 2010. And from 2010 to 2020, it decreases every year. Not here, but it's decreasing every year, aggregate and total. And it bottoms out in 21, 22, 23, 24. It starts coming back up as Generation Alpha, who is just now entering kindergarten, starts coming about. So it affects us as an institution, higher education, because there are fewer students coming through the pipe, coming towards us, and this is a national phenomenon. Majority versus minority. It's anticipated, another one of these statistics is anticipated that the Caucasian will be in the minority by 2025. No later than 2025. So cultural changes, cultural movement, everything else associated with it. Waiting later. This is almost European in its nature. I worked for a German company for 13 years and an Italian company for 14 and a half years. And one of the things that I noticed was their management professionals, they didn't get married until after they were 40 years old. You know, 40 couple years old. They didn't start having kids. I was 55 years old. My counterpart in Italy was 55 years old. I've got one in college and 2 seniors, or one senior in high school and one sophomore in high school. He's got a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. I'm going. You're going to be 70 when your kids graduate from high school. Well, that's just the way it is. We're starting to see that now. The millennial generation are the first to really show this, but they're waiting later to get married. They're waiting later to start a family, or excuse me, the second thing is they're waiting later to buy a house, if they even buy a house, okay? And they're waiting later to have a family. This is a major impact within the demographics that are changing in the United States right now. If I was a real estate agent, I'd be worried about this, okay? Yes, ma'am.
I was on a webinar the other day, and I found it very interesting to hear that the millennial generation is the largest generation in history.
Yes.
There's 80 million.
Uh-huh. Now, I'm going to come to that. I'm going to, but what kind of impact is that having, okay, as we move forward? Second one is the gender shift. The attending population of Midlands Technical College right now is 54% female. And we're seeing that go up 1.5, 2 percentage points a year. Now, what happens when higher education is 70% female? I mean, the males are opting, for whatever reason, they're opting out.
They're getting those other certificates.
Maybe so. Maybe so, but this trend is being noticed in 4-year colleges and in graduate schools also.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I know, for example, Richland 1 has a diesel mechanics program in high school. And their program, they can have seniors in high school that get out and they do a 2-year apprenticeship. And at the end of that 2-year apprenticeship, they're not making $50,000. In some cases, they're making $130,000 a year as a diesel mechanic.
And if they have the wherewithal to work all the hours that could be made available to them with the
Yeah.
overtime, they're doing that.
I mean, welding industry, people can take, what is it, 4 or 6 week welding course and almost make 60 grand.
Well, let me change that. You know, if they have to take a couple of
Yeah.
courses, all right? Because it's like 16-week combination to get you to level 2 of the American Welding Society classification. But that's when the nuclear industry will hire you.
Exactly.
Right? They'll hire you, and they'll take you to the next level.
I mean,
And that's where the big money is.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
that's
Then you go over to Sordax over here on the other side of town, and he said, I don't care anything about pipe welding, I need people that can do fabrication. And his measure of whether you can do fabrication is to take X number of pieces of 1-inch square steel tubing and make a perfect cube by welding. If you can do that, he'll hire you. Okay? But he doesn't care about pipe welding, which is all that the nuclear industry spends on, is pipe welding. And then lastly, and this was a surprise to everybody, and I guess it's a result of the changes around, is grandparent-headed households. There's now enough of them to be statistically significant in the census. This is what they're chasing right now. And how does this happen? I'm only too glad. I'm only too glad. I gotta lose it. Forget to ask that question. Here's some fun. Here's some fun. All right. Now, you know, first of all, that our government would never lie to us, right? You have to accept that. You have to accept. I actually accept that. They may not tell you the whole truth, but they didn't just come out and just abjectly lie to you. Current company accepts it. But these were 4 fibs that were told to the boom generation when we were growing up. First one was, you're going to survive a nuclear holocaust, you climb under your desk. I'm going to climb under a piece of kindling to survive a holocaust. So that's good. But it was not that they said it, it was who said it. It was the guy in a white uniform with the pith helmet that had the radiation symbol on the front of it. He carried a Geiger meter or whatever it was, Geiger counter around with it, and he says, do this. And we did that. We practiced that. I was in the 6th grade when the Russians were piloting missiles into Cuba. Right? And so I remember that. I remember looking around in the backyard with my dad deciding where we want to build a fallout shelter. But I still go on that one. I go back to college poster. The poster was on the wall in the student center at Chapel Hill, and from 69 to 73. Oops, I just said that, didn't I? But it was the 10 things on how to survive a nuclear attack. And the first one was, open all the doors and windows so there's no glass blowout and everything else. And he goes down to this, and the 10th one was, stick your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye.